Hello, welcome to ChuckChat for June 27th. We got a lot of stuff to cover. The government has woke up. We got all kinds of action going on in the physical world and elsewhere. Many things to hit on. I really the biggest one that accelerated this week from the big things to watch is around the safety, trust, and regulation. It's the government has seems to have suddenly woke up to the fact that hey, some of these models can do some things that may make a difference, and we need to be in the middle of it. And there's been some motion and some lack of motion, both at the same time in there, that is causing a bit of concern. On the models in the frontier, new models, but not for you. Workflows and capabilities, more direct access, more direct capabilities within some of those, directly integrating into workflows is one of the big themes of the week. We got exciting things going on from price hikes in the price of compute, new chips, new innovations there. Healthcare, there's some cool things worth calling out. Everything from printing skin to new science around treatments for cancer. The human layer with some fun stuff to include in here, and then we're just going to continue on through our regular embodiment. So behind the velvet rope is the new way to be thinking about the really top end models. So there was motion and things were advanced to where they're actually now in the hands of some people, but my guess is it's probably not you. So GPT-5.6 Sol, new version for ChatGPT coming out. Costs are roughly equivalent to 5.5, but capabilities are reported to be really much higher. So closer to the Mythos models and the new things that are coming out from Anthropic. Both those and the Anthropic models are now basically being gatekept by the government. And so there's a list of 100 that's being kept, and the government is approving individually based upon what you can read what it is that is getting into the hands of different companies. This is concerning on many levels. I hope this is just an interim thing and that this is something that will pass. But if it is not, this is a concern because it can basically equate to the government deciding who's going to get preferential access. Once you have preferential access to these different things, you will be able to get more experience. You'll be able to go faster. And in a world where things are going at an exponential rate in terms of speed, that may be all that you need to be able to get a competitive differentiator. And then now the government is deciding who is going to win. This is weird on multiple different fronts because this is one of the first major technologies that was not funded by a government and controlled by the government as it was rolled out. It is actually funded and controlled by private entities, and now the government is waking up to the level of impact, societal impact, that it really can have. And so this is going to continue to be a thing to watch. It's going to continue to have impact as we go forward. They're nervous across the board. Governments are getting nervous around this, so it's just not just Glasswing. They're expanding that and giving that to more folks. There's a whole talk track that is a bit sensationalist, but it is coming from Anthropic around how they are basically being crawled by others to try and steal their code. It's just predatory behavior. I mean, they're choosing those words on purpose in order to be able to get more reaction, and that's part of it's going to pull a reaction from the government as well in terms of trying to protect that asset. And I think that's part of the reason why you've got the ecosystem of fear and control that we have right now. But it is also true that the people are distilling these different models, and some of the larger competitive open source models are taking some of that work and bringing it across. If it is as serious as full as model theft or even partially intelligence theft on some of that, there's some hard questions to answer around what do you do and how do you continue to bring things forward at the right pace. So further, this is not the world of AI, but it definitely AI adjacent and squarely in the middle. Partly it is actually accelerating due to some of the capabilities from AI. I reported on this with some of Microsoft actually speeding up their timeline to when they thought quantum at scale would actually start to hit the market. And it turns out now we've got AI, and we're expecting an AI age of abundance and capability, super intelligence by 2030. We're expecting quantum to start to hit by 2030, and now they're pulling that back. So some of those are down to 29, And so the government is starting to have to say, hey, we really need to update some of our things as well. One of the biggest fears with quantum is the post-quantum encryption and the ability to just brute force it with quantum and crack things that have been viewed as secure for a very long time. And so pushing this forward to say, okay, hey, with these increasing timelines, we have to move, we've got to get these sets of capabilities done. And so the idea of harvest now, decrypt later is certainly one of those things that's out there where people are gathered. Even if you can't decrypt it now, when quantum gets there, you could decrypt it later. And if it's only a few years old, it may still be valuable in a variety of different senses. Onto the flow of work and work integration. So at Claude tag is now, this is not a brand new metaphor. This is sort of what was popularized both with the OpenClaw and some of the other tools, where the ability to talk directly to your AI. Now that was personal. This is more intended at company. And so the ability to put it directly in your Slack, and they're intending to roll it out to larger than just Slack, and then be able to talk to Claude, and Claude starts to build knowledge and intelligence around your company and around your interactions and your workflows, which enables you to be able to then automate some of those and for intelligence to be able to be brought to bear using the AI. Some amazing capabilities will get unlocked from this, but there's also going to be some reaction, I think, from employee populace about, am I being watched? I think it's going to make both talk tracks longer or stronger. Where if you are a fan and you believe that you're getting value out of these things, you're going to talk about it and say, hey, look at this example. This is highly valuable. If you're somebody who's worried, you're going to look at other different things and go, look, it was wrong, and this is an example. And I think it's going to increase the volume. But I think this is the sign of things to come. Directly integrated into the workflow, directly integrated into the workplace, access to the different information. Now, the thing to be thinking about this, if you are making some of these technologies decisions, is how embedded do you want to have that harness be? If you are using the at Claude, and Claude is the piece that's in there and the integrated, you are now tied to that specific vendor. You're tied to Anthropic. Anthropic gets more power and more swing inside of that, and the cost of moving becomes that much more difficult. This is one of the ones where a effort around how you get those harnesses, and I think you're going to probably see an explosion of different tools that are providing you some of that harnessing, providing some of the capabilities to abstract some of that, and then preserve some of your investment and maintain your intelligence as a company. This one is an example. I wanted to share this one because I thought it was a really good one in terms of actual real value delivered. So Cornell, other institutions have different money that comes in. Someone may actually send them money, but they can't spend it if they can't track it to say, this is where it came from, this is why we have it, this is how those pieces are gonna, how it works, how it ticks and ties from an accounting point of view. And so they used AI to help them to resolve a number of these different ACH payments and other things. First, starting off with a batch of 5 things that was $100,000, but now they're in hundreds of these different things for billions of dollars, and so they're able to track it back using AI to be able to do mixing and matching and figure out what the right pieces are. This is also a really good example of a central lab who knows all the tools, who has providing the acceleration, but then working with the local teams who have the knowledge, they know where that workflow goes, they know the different specific pieces and the problems to solve, and they can provide that feedback. That loop feeding itself and continuing to be able to go and provide value, that's a great one. It's a great measure. These are the types of valuable case studies I think that folks should be looking at. I'm a believer that the SDLC is going to continue to evolve. And one of the biggest changes, the biggest positive changes about AI is the speed at which you can prototype, the speed at which you can deliver, the speed at which you can get feedback, get more feedback, and be able to evolve your things. It's no longer just that sprint of here's the 1 week thing and it sort of looks like it works. It mostly works. And now you're working on hardening and distributing and scaling only those things that you really need to harden, distribute, and scale. So Figma made some moves here in this space, everything from better and faster to animations, generating MP4s and videos, utilizing the keyframes and animations. This is going to continue. This whole space is going to continue to improve and get better. The bills are starting to pile in, and we're starting to see some different ramifications of some of the speed at which some of these items are moving. So I don't know that I fully buy the headline of Oracle's statement. I get it sells better in the press, right? As we tie these to AI layoffs, and look, we're being more efficient, and that's why we're cutting these 21,000 jobs. It's already been covered before that Oracle's been making some of these cuts because they are investing in AI. They're investing in data centers. They need to be able to pay for those different pieces. In order to be able to do that, one of their top costs is people, and so making some of those different cuts. So I'd treat this with a little bit of a dubiousness, but it's definitely one of the ones that's catching the press's eye and ear, because it resonates for people of, hey, look at all these layoffs that are caused by AI, and it is swirling around AI in that particular case. This is a place where it really the hunger for memory, the hunger for chips, is actually now starting to affect consumer pricing. So you got Hynix, they are planning to do a U.S. basically show up in the U.S. stock market. They're already a publicly traded company, but they're going to do a fundraising round to be able to sell a portion of the company in the U.S. stock market to raise roughly $29 billion. With the recent one of SpaceX going out and with other AI things being highly valued the way that they are, I think they're trying to catch on some of that and get some investment money and be able to do more, build more chips and build more memory. And that's the reason why they're doing this. But they are already listed as a Korean entity and a memory maker. Now, as costs continue to go up and up because there's demand for them for AI, now Apple, who has said they've tried to keep things contained from the consumer, is now saying, yes, we're going to have to pass on some of these costs. It's going to increase the cost of devices by $100, $200, or maybe more, depending upon what the device actually is. So things to watch, and continue to know, hey, this is not a is it in some places you can only build things so fast, and we've kind of taken for granted that chip costs are going to just continue to go down and down and down, and continue to go up and up and up in capabilities, and now there's some things that are pushing against that. So OpenAI also, they with Broadcom, announced their Jalapeño chip, so their own inference chip. This does not displace NVIDIA. It does not displace some of the other things from a training point of view. And they've also got a relationship with another large company that's doing inference already for them. But this just points to how hungry they are for more chips, more capability, the ability to deploy and go faster all across the board. This one is interesting to me because it came from the Bank of International Settlements. So the basically, as banks are sending money back and forth, they help to clear those different things, and they're warning that, hey, the debt around some of these pieces are likely to cause some fragility and some global risks, because there's just so much money going on. There's so much money, so much debt financing going into these different areas, and that if there's steps, if there's missteps along the way, if there's faults along the way, it will have some serious ramifications and some up and downs. You may think about things from the dot-com age when they were laying down fiber, and then all of a sudden there was a glut of fiber, and now there's an issue. Now there's a lot of people who are betting that, hey, this demand is going to do nothing but go up, and so spending all this money, these billions and billions of dollars, it makes sense, and this is the reason why we're doing it. But sometimes even a good and healthy technology and a useful technology can cause an unhealthy investment cycle, and we'll see some wobble as things go through. I do expect that we'll see wobbles. I'm hoping that we continue to see value and value go faster and faster, which outpaces those different wobbles. Agents continuing on and getting some playgrounds. This is pretty cool. And then some practice fields in that as well. So Quen released essentially a playground for agents. A virtual world where agents can learn and use it for training. So lots and lots of talk about reinforcement learning and models learning from their own capabilities, the ability to do experimentation. That's really what this is squarely aimed at. It is a world model created for agents to be able to do work simulate that work, try different things, learn and fail, and learn and succeed, and then build a better reward system around that to build better training and better training models. It's an innovative one. It's an interesting paper to think about from a practice piece, and I think you're going to see more science like that and more experiments that feed to those sorts of things. Now, at the same time, we've got this particular one, and this is a piece on from Nature. Basically, that hey, we think maybe we're seeing more homogenized research. So what an LLM does is it boils down things to average into normal, into maybe really really smart and really really capable or high IQ, but it's still the average boiled up sort of a thing because it uses the percentages and quantifications that way to say what the right answer should actually be. So, in order to inject things in science, sometimes science requires crazy. You gotta have a conviction that some intellectual process that is different and vastly different than what the established norm actually is. That's where the real innovation comes from. And with AI accelerating things and helping to normalize pieces and make them go faster, one of the real risks is that the frontier may start to normalize as well, and you start to see more of a channel of some of those things. I think to me, this is one of those areas where humans really still have a lot of value, and we can come up with crazy ideas, and then we can use the AI to iterate. You're still, from a creativity point of view, a better source for that. Rebuilding the human body. So onward into some different medical things. There was a couple of cool things that came out this week. So basically, this is 3D printing skin. So utilizing hormones, utilizing different sets of things to be able to actually graft that then on to a burn patient. One of the more difficult things about recovery is that it becomes very hard. It becomes very stiff. The scarring is very difficult. Last week we talked about, can you just regrow a whole limb, which is an interesting study by itself. But this one is basically just a practical treatment of, hey, can we make this better so that healing can go faster? Reduce scarring, reduce swelling, make it easier. It's far from perfect. It's not ready to say, okay, we're just going to print you a new skin and away you go. But it does help to bridge that gap of the body being able to do its own healing and bring other capabilities into to bear. This one is interesting in the world of cancer therapy. It's a very specific one, but I'm thinking it may be practical in other areas as well. But this study showed that around so cancers basically are part of your normal body growing wild, and because of that, your own blood cells that normally would fight an infection, fight a problem, fight a disease, don't fight it, or don't fight it appropriately. And so there's this is partly the T cells can't actually breach the tumor wall to be able to fight it. And so what they found is that there's a combination of different drugs and therapies that would allow your own system, your own defense system, to be able to attack that and to be able to treat that, which is a really promising way to be able to do that. That's what your body is built to do, is to continue to keep you healthy and to heal the right pieces. And so if this line of research actually continues to see progress and fruit, it could prove a useful way to be able to improve the efficacy of treatments, if nothing else. And I put this one in just because I keep talking about good things and positive things going on in science. Sometimes you're wrong, and so this one is they printed a retraction. So there was a immunotherapy trial, and they thought that it was successful, but there were a number of inconsistencies. There were other things between protocols and versions, and there's a large number of people who are on there. Some supported it, some of them weren't able to be reached for comment on it, but good skepticism makes good science. So again, going back to you got to be crazy to come up with those crazy ideas, but you also have to be skeptical, and the scientific method is a thing. How do you prove it? Right? And then just to close out on one kind of fun thing, here in Texas, which is where I am, we had a giraffe in the wild, in the Texas wilds, for 2 weeks, and it had started to become a meme. They have found her. So Gracie is back home again in on the ranch where she was from. She's healthy. She's actually doing well. Basically, I guess she had a catch me if you can sort of an attitude when they did find her. But the fact that a 14-foot giraffe could disappear into the brush of Texas. I mean, looking at this, you see like, oh, well, there's some trees and branches there that they're about the same size. That's got to be like them. Those are the bushes and trees that are that tall. There's just not a lot. It's a amazing thing. She's a ninja. Gracie is at least part ninja from the ability to hide. That concludes this week. Not a huge number of things in the news, but some very impactful things in the news, especially when you consider the government piece and the phase that we're in around who gets access, where is that access going to be, what's the cost, what's going to drive those different costs, who's going to govern and own the consequences. Lots of things happening inside of there, with something to continue to watch. Appreciate it if you give a like and a subscribe. Check out the link. Hit a subscribe on the newsletter as well if you want to get the distilled versions of these sorts of things. And I'll look forward to talking to you all again next week.